Hi, Jessica
I'm Aaron.
from Unstuck, and we're here to talk about integration. So, Aaron, what the heck is integration?
Yeah, so integration is the period of time after a psilocybin journey. And you have this time of mental flexibility that is generally about 2 weeks of like strong effect. And I like to schedule integration maybe a week or so after a journey psilocybin session.
And why is that?
So you need enough time to start sort of putting the pieces back together, right? Like the psilocybin journey can be a lot of pieces floating around, right? There's kind of a sense of relearning that is very useful, right? You can decide to leave behind things and relearn or reintegrate other things. And so giving some time for some of those things to settle back in, and then giving some time to notice how you're interacting with the world around you, with the people around you. And then we can talk about that. So what kind of things do you talk with clients about for integration? What comes up?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is there's not a lot of people to talk to about their experiences sometimes. So either, it's still kind of a stigmatized topic, a little bit taboo. People might just generally not be aware of who they can talk to about things that came up for them. And so this is a really important period to, like you said, piece together the puzzle a little bit. So for me, I like to talk to people about, okay, what specifically came up for you? What do we feel like the meaning of that is? And how do we keep that alive and going on throughout the rest of your life, hopefully? I think one of the hardest things after a journey is you have so much going on during that session, so much comes up, and it can be a beautiful, overwhelming, scary, amazing experience. But then what do you do with that after? And that experience can also be very fleeting afterwards too.
Picking what to focus on and like, what does it mean and what do I do with it? Right?
Totally.
That's the integration is the part where I really enjoy using my skill set that way, because people are like, oh, I saw this, and like, what does that even mean? And following those paths, sometimes such a slight departure from the normal, right? A little fork in the road, sometimes doesn't seem like a big change, but if you can recognize that change in direction, that can lead to a large change in who someone is.
Absolutely. And I think also allowing people to understand that it's not going to be just a straight, road. There's a lot of ups and downs that come with it. Because, you get back out into the real world, and while you have changed, the world hasn't changed. Right. And how do you deal with that?
That brings up a couple of things that are important with integration. Oftentimes, like, we have to create a safety and support plan. Having support during this integration period is important, because sometimes things get harder before they get easier, right? Maybe you're going through something and you've got to get through it before you get to the reward on the other side. And so this integration is also planning that. Right, planning the support, planning how you're going to get through it, what it might look like, and also the decision making sometimes can be clearer. Right, something that you've been contemplating can all of a sudden seem like the answer is more obvious. And like you said, the rest of the world didn't go through the journey with you, and so sometimes that can be jarring. And planning with people how to address the rest of the world so that people can understand where they're coming from.
Totally. And I think it's about recognizing even the small changes that might be occurring too, versus just expecting these big overwhelming changes overall.
Right. Yeah.
So I've had clients before be like, well, I had a hard day this day, or, things didn't go quite well, or I feel like I'm slipping. And it's like, yeah, but, how do you feel on, those little tiny things? Are you noticing like flavors tasting better? Are you noticing like your mood's a little bit improved?
Are you getting different feedback from other people that you're easier to talk to, or look a little brighter, a little lighter? I've had anything from clients, stand up at the end of their 5 or 6 hours here with me and go, man, I just feel lighter. I feel so much better. And they're just like glowing all of a sudden. Like they walk in like droopy and they walk out glowing, right? Which is like so rewarding and doesn't happen every time, right? Like those are the ones that we hope for. And so often those rewards come a little later. And I've also had clients that say, oh, I didn't have any effect. I didn't see any, rainbow geometry. And the thing is that oftentimes our body is processing in a way that doesn't involve that classic psychedelic imagery that everyone likes to highlight, right? But we store trauma in our bodies. That's oftentimes where chronic pain and stuff can come from. And so people can have journeys where they get all of the effects long-term, the healing effects, and we can still talk about what those effects are and how to notice these differences in their life, even if some of the classic things that we're looking for don't show up.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes that's the first journey that happens, right? Where there's that backlog of things that they're processing, where it's more of a body healing experience rather than a kind of inward and upward mental experience.
100%. And I think it's important for people to know that no matter how the journey went for them, whether it was the most like life-changing experience possible, or they didn't see anything, nothing happened, that neuroplasticity is happening. Right. And there's this beautiful critical window of time after a session where these neuroplastic changes are continuing. And that is the bread and butter of this integration and understanding that.
Yeah. Integration is my favorite time with our clients. It's when I feel like I can really get into some of the exciting details with people and just helping them translate, all of the things that are ineffable, right? That escape words and definitions, that we can sort of tease out some of those little gifts that happen throughout the day.
Totally. And I think, like you said earlier, some of these things don't come up or aren't found out until maybe weeks or months afterwards too. So even if people, don't quite make sense of the experience right away, that can still happen down the road.
Right. Yeah.
And this is why just kind of paying attention to those small things is very important. But also having that window of opportunity to create those changes and to make those changes for yourself too. And so I like to tell people that, this is the time where if you notice that you do kind of slip back into that old pattern, or you go back down that same line of thinking, this is where you stop, take a minute, recognize it, and can you flip the script?
Yeah. The time after your journey during that integration is when you actually have that ability between when something happens and you might immediately react, that you actually have a little more space. There's a little bit more of that time to notice and go, oh, okay, I'm going to notice that was the old me. I want to let that go, and this is a new direction I can go in. It's really great to see.
And I feel like that's where successful integration really happens, is when people can do that recognizing and can make those changes in real time.
Yeah, they're willing to continue to put in the work.
And it does take work.
It's work. It's a journey. It doesn't do it by itself.
Sadly.
You have to put the work into it, but it's so rewarding.
So rewarding. And I think that's the other big piece for people to know is that, this journey is not a magic bullet. It's not the magic pill to cure all. There is that integrative work afterwards, but if you're willing to do the work, so many rewarding, amazing things can come.
Yeah.
What do you think about group integration, Aaron?
Group integration is really great. It's a whole nother dynamic where you get to hear other people's stories. You get to hear where people are at in their healing journey, right? Oftentimes, so much of the media that we read, that we watch, is someone talking about a really long period of time and giving you all of the most memorable, most highlighted things, right? I had ego death, and I was me, and I was not me, and I was there, and I was not there, and right. And it's like those are the things that stick out, but those aren't necessarily what every step of the way looks like, right? And so group integration really allows you to kind of normalize all of the pieces that you might be going through, that you might see someone going through their journey and go, oh yeah, I've got a little bit of that. I wasn't remembering that, but I feel that, right? And so there's a lot of benefits there.
I like the way you said that, normalize it, and I think that does give you a community of people that this is now normal for.
Totally. Yeah.
That does make so much sense, and especially for those people, again, that might not have that really wide supportive network afterwards.
Right.
I think this can be a beautiful way to get that.
And traditionally, indigenously, this was a communal medicine, right? This was something that we as humans did together and did supporting each other. And it's a beautiful thing to see that come back and see that allowed to come back and flourish above ground where we can talk more freely.
And I would even argue that sometimes the best healing can occur in that group setting.
Yeah.
And I would definitely encourage people who are even maybe hesitant about doing groups or don't do groups or never, like they're very individual, to think about it and to maybe experience it once, because I do think that there's so much more that you can get out of it than just individually.
We are social creatures by nature.
And what is mushrooms if not a community of mycelial network?
Absolutely. Yeah. Connectedness is where it's at.
For sure.
Yeah.
Is that good? Yeah.